Chapter 868. Since that day, Thought Moon Immortal would occasionally give Lu Yi missions through Wei Ling. They were all trivial matters, mostly related to eating and drinking. There was even one mission that asked him to go to a nearby mountain pass to buy a special kind of wine. Every time he completed a mission, he would gain merit points, ranging from a few hundred to 2,000. In just a few days, Lu Yi had gained close to 10,000 merit points. The harvest was not bad, but Lu Yi felt that something was not right. Things should not be developing like this. On this day, Lu Yi was still cooking at Thought Moon Immortal's spiritual peak. He was roasting beast meat on the fire, boiling hot soup in the pot, and there were a few jars of wine on the table, waiting for Thought Moon Immortal's arrival. Generally speaking, she would only show up when Lu Yi was ready. Suddenly, the smell of a burnt lake came. She turned her head and exclaimed, "Lu Yi, the lake is roasted." She quickly went forward and snatched the roasted meat from his hand, trying to salvage the situation. When she turned her head again, she saw Lu Yi frowning and sitting there with a bitter expression. "What's wrong?" He did not understand, not knowing what Lu Yi was worried about. "Something's wrong." Lu Yi shook his head. "What's wrong? It shouldn't be like this." He entered the military state guards to guard the front line, not to be a servant here. Although there were orders from above and no one disobeyed, what was he doing these days? He suddenly stood up and kicked over the soup pot in front of him. In Yi's exclamation, he flipped over the table, and the wine he bought from the nearby mountain pass also fell to the ground. He looked up at the bamboo house not far away and cupped his fist. "Lord, subordinate has something to say." On the third floor of the bamboo house, a beautiful figure appeared. Thought Moon Immortal floated down. Looking at the mess on the ground, she said, "Speak." "Lord, this subordinate requests Lord to give me some proper missions. Please don't let this subordinate do these miscellaneous tasks." "The previous missions were not proper?" "Proper or not, don't you know?" Lu Yi had a stomach full of depression, but he had nowhere to vent. Although merit points were good things, it did not come from this. If this continued, he would be crippled. "Sir, this is the Tsangyen Mountain Pass. You and I are both military prefecture guards and should take care of our duties. We shouldn't be idle like this." Nian Yuxian, who was originally on the third floor, suddenly appeared in front of him. She was only a foot away from him, and her gaze became sharp. "Am I very old?" "That's what I said, but that's not what I meant. Sir, there's no need to harp on the word tenancy." Lu Yi couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Nian Yu Immortal just stared at him quietly, making Lu Ye's hair stand on end. After a while, she said, "I understand." Lu Yi exhaled deeply and said in a deep voice, "If that's the case, I want to drink fish soup." Fish soup made from blood-red scales. "I haven't had it in years." Lu Yi suddenly didn't know how to respond, and how did she know about the blood-red scales? This should be a product of the Moon Lake of the Jade Blood sect, or had she tasted it somewhere else? "Within 5 days, I want to drink fresh, blood-red fish soup," Thought Moon Immortal said. "My lord, what I said just now, you want to disobey?" Thought Moon Immortal's tone was unhurried. Their eyes met, and after a long while, Lu Yi gritted his teeth and said word by word, "This subordinate obeys." As he said this, he waved his hand. Hoopa jumped up and was about to land on his shoulder, but he was sucked in by a force in midair. When he came back to his senses, he was already in Thought Moon Immortal's arms. Her slender, jade-like hand stroked Hoopa's fur like a kitten. "Master, save me." Hoopa glared at the 2 tiger cubs, conveying his wish to Lu Yi. Lu Yi raised his hand and pressed down on the hilt of his saber, looking coldly at Thought Moon Immortal. "The 2 of them stay with me. You go alone." Thought Moon Immortal didn't seem to notice his hostility. She turned around and threw her back to him, looking completely unguarded. "Don't worry, I won't eat it." It would have been better if she hadn't said this. As soon as she said this, Hooper immediately trembled. He stepped forward and grabbed Lu Ye's arm, shaking her head. "Don't be impulsive. Go quickly and come back quickly. She doesn't mean any harm." The main thing was that he couldn't beat her. Her cultivation was at the divine ocean realm. Even if she really didn't guard against Lu Yi couldn't possibly be her opponent. Moreover, in the military province guards, offending one's superior was a great taboo. Please take good care of the two of them, sir. The two of them are this subordinate's beloved friends. After Lu Yi finished speaking, he soared into the sky. Fiery red spiritual energy flowed behind his back, transforming into a pair of wings, and he quickly flew away. Beloved friends, thought Moon Immortal's figure paused. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and she raised her hand to tap Hupo's nose. Seeing her reveal such an expression, Hupo panicked even more. His eyes rolled back, and he directly fainted. Thought Moon Immortal pinched his neck, saying softly, "If you don't wake up, then I'm going to cook a pot of tiger bone soup." Hupo immediately opened his eyes, full of energy, indicating that he was just taking a short nap. He never would have thought that after entering the military province guards, he wouldn't even see a single cultivator from the myriad Devil Ridge, and would actually have to return to his sect first. After these few days of contact, Lu Yi found that Thought Moon Immortal was more or less unreliable. He didn't know why he was so unlucky to be assigned to be her subordinate. Moreover, he was the only one assigned to the Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass. What exactly was going on over at Grand Sky City? However, the allocation of soldiers was decided by the higher-ups, and Lu Yi couldn't do anything about it. The journey to the Jade Blood sect was not short, and Thought Moon Immortal only gave him 5 days. In other words, he had to rush back to his sect within 2.5 days. The mission had already been issued through the guard token. If he missed the deadline, not to mention not being able to complete the mission, Thought Moon Immortal would very likely make things difficult for him. Lu Yi suspected that she was using this method to force him to leave the Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass. Before his arrival, she had always been alone. His arrival might have broken the peace of her life, causing her to feel a little uncomfortable. Therefore, she kept ordering him around and giving him some trivial missions. Otherwise, how could a spirit ocean realm cultivator like her have so much appetite for food? She even asked him to go to the nearby mountain pass to buy some special wine. Lu Yi also didn't see any signs of her drinking. Time was of the essence, and he sped along. What made Lu Yi feel slightly relieved was that after his cultivation broke through to the true lake realm, his speed had greatly increased. There was enough time to rush back and forth in 5 days. If it was before his breakthrough, this mission might have really failed. He traveled through the night, and only occasionally stopped to recover his strength before continuing on his journey. After a full 2 days, he finally arrived at the Fragrant Mountain. He didn't guard the front, and went straight to the Moon Lake. From afar, he saw Shui Yuan's figure waiting there. Lu Yi had already informed Shui Yuan on the way, so his second senior sister knew that he was going to rush back. However, there was another figure beside Shui Yuan. When he got closer, he knew that it was Pang Huanin. She had returned from the Wushuang continent. His figure flashed like lightning and landed in front of the two. "Senior brother Lu." Pang Huanin greeted with a smile. "Palace Master Pang," Lu Yi replied and looked at Shui Yuan. "Second senior sister, I'll catch some fish first. We'll talk later." Saying so, he flashed into the Moon Lake and shuttled back and forth. A moment later, he rushed out again. His body was protected by spirit energy, so he didn't get wet at all. "Congratulations, senior brother, for breaking through to the true lake realm." Pang Huanin congratulated. The spirit energy fluctuations emitted by Lu Yi made her understand that he had broken through from the 8th Order Cloud River realm to the true lake realm in such a short period of time. She couldn't help but feel envious and amazed at how convenient it was for the cultivators of the 9 regions to cultivate. "Palace Master Pang, you're not far from the true lake realm." Lu Yi nodded. Pang Huanin was originally at the peak of the Cloud River realm. Due to the environment of the Wushuang continent, she couldn't break through to the true lake realm. Now that she was in the 9 regions, the true lake realm was not the end of her cultivation. She would definitely reach the spirit ocean realm in the future. It was just that she had been busy with worldly affairs recently, so she didn't have time to cultivate in seclusion. Many people from the Ziwei Dao Palace had come to Fragrant Mountain with the help of the Blue Blood sect's Heaven's Fate Pillar. They were building the sect and the foundation of the sect on the 30 peaks that Pang Huanin had marked out. After everything was done, the Ziwei Dao Palace could establish a sect in the 9 regions. At that time, they would announce to the military province that the Blue Blood sect was the upper sect. The news had already spread, which shocked many sects in the military province because there were many sects more powerful than the Blue Blood sect in the military province. Many people didn't understand why the Ziwei Dao Palace chose the Blue Blood sect as their upper sect. Only a few people who knew the reason behind Pang Huanin's decision. This was a joyous occasion for the Blue Blood sect, so no one was interfering. Second senior sister, do you know Thought Moon Immortal? Lu Yi looked at Shui Yuan again. Previously, when she was communicating with Shui Yuan, Lu Yi had mentioned the reason for her return. Naturally, she had also mentioned the missing Moon Immortal. She had also complained a lot about the missing Moon Immortal. Shui Yuan didn't reply much and only told him to wait until they met. However, from Shui Yuan's words, she seemed to know Thought Moon Immortal. I know her. Logically speaking, I should call her senior sister. Shui Yuan nodded. Lu Yi couldn't help but be surprised. She also came from our Blue Blood sect? But then again, Yi was right when she called Thought Moon Immortal sister. On the contrary, it was wrong for him to call her senior. Of course not. Shui Yuan laughed. She has never joined any sect. Strictly speaking, she is a loose cultivator. A loose cultivator? Lu Yi exclaimed. He more or less knew how harsh the environment was for loose cultivators to grow up in. On the path of cultivation, loose cultivators needed to put in much more effort than sect disciples. For a loose cultivator to cultivate to the Divine Sea realm, it was impossible to imagine how many hardships she had experienced on the path of cultivation. Just from this point alone, Lu Yi was filled with admiration. Does she have a grudge with our Blue Blood sect? No. Then why is she tormenting me like that? Initially, Lu Yi didn't realize what was going on. He only saw that he had completed the mission and obtained battle merits and was rather happy. However, after interacting with her for a few days, Lu Yi finally saw some clues. The Thought Moon Immortal was tormenting him. Otherwise, why would she give him those missions when he was at the True Lake stage? Mobile users, please browse. Chapter 869. The previous tasks were basically all about obtaining materials from the local area. The most troublesome task was to go to the nearby mountain pass to buy wine. This time, it was too much. If she wanted to drink fish soup, she would have to rush back to the Blue Blood sect. However, the military province guard's order was like a mountain, and she couldn't resist, which made Lu Yi very depressed. Do you think she's torturing you? Shui Yuan asked. Isn't she? Lu Ye's face darkened. Although I don't know why, I always feel that she's using this method to force me to leave the Blue Flame Mountain Pass. So that's what you think? Shui Yuan muttered to herself. Well, as you said, she is indeed torturing you. As for the reason, you can think of it as her revenge. I've never provoked her. Lu Yi frowned. And second senior sister, you just said that she has no enmity with my Blue Blood sect. Who is she taking revenge on? How should I put it? Shui Yuan hesitated for a while before saying, someone once tormented her like this, and that person is from our Blue Blood sect, so she's using the same method to deal with you. Someone? Lu Ye's heart skipped a beat, second senior sister. Shui Yuan took the lead and confirmed Lu Ye's guess. So that's the reason. Lu Yi was slightly surprised. In that case, not only does she have no enmity with my Blue Blood sect, but she also has some relationship with it? Otherwise, how can you stay in the Blue Flame Mountain Pass? Over the years, the military province guard has sent people to her side, but they were all beaten back by her. Her reputation of guarding the mountain pass alone is not for nothing. She wasn't this stubborn before, but because of some things, her temperament changed. However, you need to remember that she has no malice towards you and will not harm you. I understand. Lu Yi nodded. She finally understood why Thought Moon Immortal knew about Blood Red. It turned out that she did have some relationship with the Blue Blood sect. She must have eaten a lot of Blue Blood sect's fish in the past. There's not much time left, I'll go back now. Take care, senior sister. Lu Yi turned to Pang Huanin and said, Palace Master Pang, take care. Pang Huanin nodded with a smile and watched as Lu Yi flew away. He came and went in a hurry. 2 days later, Lu Yi finally returned to Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass. From afar, he saw Yi's figure waiting for him in front of the bamboo building. Although what second senior sister had said made Lu Yi realize that she had misunderstood Thought Moon Immortal, she was still worried about Yi and Hupa. Only when he saw Yi now did he feel at ease. Did anything happen? Lu Yi asked. Yi shook her head, then took out a guard token and waved it in her hand as if she was presenting a treasure. Look, I have this too. She was a disciple of the Blue Blood sect who had been recruited by the headmaster himself. She had her own battlefield mark. Logically speaking, she was qualified to become a weapon state guard. However, she had never shown herself in front of outsiders, so she had never thought of joining the military province guards. But now, she had her own guard token. Where did it come from? Lu Yi was surprised. Master Li gave it to me. Yi was immensely proud of herself. She thought for a moment and whispered to Lu Yi, Lu Yi, you might have misunderstood the past master. She's actually quite a nice person. She took good care of us when you weren't around. Also, she likes Hooper a lot. She's been bringing it with her wherever she goes. A useless guard token was enough to buy you over? Lu Yi's heart ached. What position did she give you? Yi said proudly, Vicissitude Master Li of Vicissitude Mountain Pass. Lu Yi frowned. What position is that? Although he didn't know much about the many military positions in the military province guards, the title of Vicissitude Master didn't sound very reliable. The Mountain Pass Master said that the position of Vicissitude Mountain Pass is under one person and above all. Lu Yi was amused. Aside from you and Hupa, there are only 2 people here. You're saying that you're below one person and above 10,000 people? As she laughed, she realized that something was off. Above me? Yi held back her laughter and nodded seriously. That's right. Lu Yi suddenly felt like he was being targeted. He was inexplicably irritated. Because of what second senior sister said before, he thought that he had misunderstood Thought Moon Immortal. But now, it seemed that he was still too naive. Let's cook the fish soup first. Lu Yi put an end to this sad topic. In the entire Vicissitude Mountain Pass, there were 2 people, 1 spirit, 1 tiger. In the end, he was the one at the bottom. The bonfire rose and steam rose. The aroma of the fish soup wafted out. Thought Moon Immortal was like a noble lady. She carried Hupo in her arms and walked down from the 3rd floor of the bamboo building. She came to the table and sat down. Hupo looked at Lu Yi with teary eyes. His expression was saying, Master, please save me. Being carried in the arms of a divine sea realm cultivator and being together for several days, Hupo was under a lot of pressure. He felt that his future was bleak. Lu Yi was busy. He put a bowl of fish soup in front of Thought Moon Immortal and said unwillingly, Sir, please enjoy. Thought Moon Immortal nodded and picked up the fish soup. At first, she only sipped it lightly. But soon, she drank it in big mouthfuls. After she finished, she pushed the bowl in front of Lu Yi. Lu Yi understood tacitly and scooped another bowl for her. After drinking 3 bowls in a row, Thought Moon Immortal slowed down. She even picked up a fish bone to feed Hupo. I'm a tiger, not a cat. Hupo tried to struggle, but to no avail. He could only accept his fate. He chewed on the fish bone, looking like he had a deep grudge. Seeing that Thought Moon Immortal seemed to be in a good mood and even had a faint smile on her face, Lu Yi said, Sir, I have something to discuss with you. Thought Moon Immortal made a soft sound from her nose. Lu Yi said, Can we not give out missions like before next time? You don't want to? Lu Yi shook his head. In the end, I am a military prefecture guard. Since I am a military prefecture guard, I will naturally do whatever my superiors ask of me. It's just that, if Sir has any trivial needs in life, just say the word. I will not refuse. But please don't use the guard token to give out missions. Lu Yi was not too sure how he had obtained the merit from completing various missions, but it was clearly not a long-term plan to obtain merit this way. It was also very unreliable. The mysteries of heaven were everywhere. If everyone played this way, merit would not be so useful. He could faintly sense that continuing to obtain merit this way was not a good thing. Thought Moon Immortal was a little surprised that he would say this, but she understood what he meant. You want to do great things. That's not it. I just hope that Sir can consider the missions you give out in the future. It would be best if you could give out some missions related to the military prefecture guard. Contrary to Lu Ye's expectations, Thought Moon Immortal actually went along with it. She held the guard token in her hand and said, 3 missions. You can choose one. Lu Ye's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly took out his own guard token to check. There were indeed 3 more missions hidden in the information. Looking at the first mission, Lu Yi frowned in confusion. Sir, who is this Wan Zhonggang? The content of the mission was very simple. Kill Wan Zhonggang. While feeding Hupa, Nian Yuxian explained calmly, he's my old rival. Thousands of miles away, there's a solitary cloud city in the myriad Devil Ridge. He's the mountain pass master there, and also the city lord of Solitary Cloud City. When he heard Thought Moon Immortal say that this was her old rival, Lu Yi did not want to continue listening. Thought Moon Immortal was a Shenhai realm cultivator. To be able to become her old rival, he was naturally at the Divine Ocean realm. As expected, asking a true Lake realm cultivator to kill a Divine Ocean realm cultivator, and a past lord at that, was simply a fool's dream. Even though Lu Yi knew that if he really completed this mission, the merit he would obtain would be extremely huge, he could only pretend that he did not see it. He looked at the second mission. Repair the many fortifications of the Ash Flame Mountain Pass. This was not dangerous. After all, the Ash Flame Mountain Pass was his own territory. But currently, there was only him and the Thought Moon Immortal in the entire pass. Even if Yi and Hupo were included, there were only 4 of them. Those defensive structures had not been used for many years and had long since been destroyed. Not to mention the difficulty of repairing them, even if they were repaired, they would not be of any use. It was a complete waste of time. He looked at the third mission, patrol the area around the pass and guard against sneaky people. Lu Yi fell silent and could only say, Lord, I choose the third mission. Then, the contents of the first 2 missions disappeared from the token. Only the third mission was left. It is good to have the heart to do great things. But it is not good to have the heart but not the strength. Many great things are slowly accumulated from small things. The Thought Moon Immortal seemed to be teaching Lu Yi. Madam is right. Lu Yi nodded, but he had a nagging feeling that something was not quite right. From tomorrow onwards, I will leave the patrol around the pass to you. As Thought Moon Immortal spoke, she got up and walked towards her bamboo house. After a few steps, she said, Oh right, since you are responsible for the patrol, I will give you another mission. Lu Yi shook the guard token in his hand and immediately felt a change in his battlefield imprint. He looked carefully and saw that the information on his identity changed again. Identity, Blue Blood Sect Disciple, Blue Flame Mountain Pass Guard, Blue Flame Mountain Pass Patrol Guard. Lu Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After coming to Vicissitude Flame Mountain Pass, he had obtained 2 positions, including Yi's position as an advisor, that made it 3. But what was the use? It wasn't that having more missions didn't mean you would be famous enough. You couldn't scare away enemies with just these missions. Hupa finally broke free from Thought Moon Immortal's claws and jumped into Lu Ye's arms. It raised its meaty paws and whimpered. Clearly, it was complaining. Other than stroking its fur these few days, Thought Moon Immortal had been pinching its little paws. The man and tiger looked at each other. Lu Yi sighed, You are living under someone else's roof. Hupa immediately felt dejected. But then again, although he had been running around for a few days, he had gotten quite a bit of battle merit this time. It was 10,000 points. By now, Lu Ye's battle merit had reached 59,870 points. In other words, since coming to Blue Flame Mountain Pass, he had gotten close to 20,000 points. But Lu Yi still felt uneasy about gaining battle merit like this. Fortunately, all of this was finally over and he had gotten a proper mission. Thought Moon Immortal was right. Those who wanted to achieve great things had to start from small things. Chapter 870. Ashen Flame Mountain Pass, with Ashen Flame Mountain City as the center, radiated thousands of miles to the left and right, all under the jurisdiction of this pass. From the map, the pass was surrounded by White Jade City Pass on the left and Clear Moon Cave Pass on the right. Although the three passes were separated by a certain distance, they could cooperate with each other from afar and form a defense line. The defense line on the side of the military prefecture guards was connected by the passes. White Jade City Pass on the left was the same as Ashen Flame Mountain Pass, both belonging to the Great Moon Pass. Clear Moon Cave Pass on the right belonged to the Small Moon Pass. In this way, Ashen Flame Mountain was the rightmost defensive node of the entire defense line of the Great Moon Pass. Under normal circumstances, this defense line that stretched for 2,000 miles required a large number of cultivators to spread out and patrol to prevent myriad Devil Ridge cultivators from sneaking in. However, on Ashen Flame Mountain, other than Thought Moon Immortal, Lu Yi was the only one. Naturally, they couldn't count on anyone else. Right now, Lu Yi was in charge of patrolling the area around the pass. It was his duty to check for loopholes and fill in the gaps. After resting for the night, Lu Yi set off with Hu Pe and Yi before the sky brightened the next day. He and Hu Pe were in the light, while Yi was in the dark. Although there were few people, with his powerful perception and Yi's concealment, if there were any myriad Devil Ridge cultivators hiding nearby, it would be difficult for them to escape detection. While he was patrolling, a melody that he had almost forgotten began to play in his mind. The king asked me to patrol the mountain. I'll take a look around the human world. He hurriedly shook his head and dispelled this inappropriate thought. The defense line that radiated 2,000 miles to the left and right of Ashen Flame Mountain didn't even include the depth. It was impossible for Lu Yi to complete his patrol in a day. His original plan was to only patrol the nearby 100 miles of Fan Country. Even so, it would take him half a day. The lack of manpower here was the biggest problem. He could only ensure that there were no enemies within a radius of 100 miles. Moreover, before he arrived, Thought Moon Immortal was guarding alone and probably wouldn't do this patrol. After so many years, the defense line was still stable. Therefore, although he was now in charge of patrolling, it was most likely just a formality. However, as Lu Yi continued to investigate, he soon discovered something interesting. The deeper he went into the defense line, the stronger the burning sensation in the air. When Lu Yi first came to Hongkou, she felt that the environment here seemed to be hotter than other places. Previously, he had been tormented by the Thought Moon Immortal in all sorts of ways, so he didn't have the time to think too much about it. But now, he had a different discovery. Thinking back to the location of the mountain pass, Ashen Flame Mountain, and the fact that the mountain had the word flame in it, undoubtedly explained a lot of things. He had originally wanted to use the guard token to send a message to the missing Moon Immortal to inquire about the situation and see if it was really as he thought. But after thinking about it for a while, he decided to drop the idea. Although she had her second senior sister's guarantee that she wouldn't have any malice towards her, she had been tormented by her for a period of time. Lu Yi wanted to avoid any contact with her as much as possible. After confirming the direction, he continued to walk deeper into the defensive line. Along the way, there were no disturbances and not a single myriad Devil Ridge cultivator could be seen. Perhaps they didn't encounter any, or perhaps no myriad Devil Ridge cultivator dared to cause trouble. Lu Yi felt that it should be the former. One person suppressing an entire group. Although it sounded awe-inspiring, there would inevitably be many loopholes in the defensive line. Even if the missing Moon Immortal was a Divine Sea Realm cultivator, it was impossible for her to constantly use her divine perception to monitor the surroundings. Lu Yi reckoned that there would be many myriad Devil Ridge cultivators sneaking into the Grand Heaven Alliance's territory from the defensive line at the entrance of the continent. Of course, there was a risk in doing so. Because once the missing Moon Immortal sensed it, it would be difficult for even an immortal to save them. But no matter which position they chose to sneak into the enemy's territory, they would have to bear all kinds of risks. There was no lack of skilled and daring people who would take the risk. The burning sensation became more and more obvious. Even the air was filled with a strange, pungent smell. Lu Yi was excited and realized that he was right. There was definitely something like a volcano in front of him. There was still a half-activated spirit pattern on his talent tree. Because the talent tree didn't devour enough rare flames and alchemy fire, it had been a long time. Recently, he had been working hard to find suitable rare flames and alchemy fire in the Tianji treasure vault, but his harvest was meager. But he didn't expect to find it here. This was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. However, he was already close to the myriad Devil Ridge's sphere of influence. According to this situation, even if there really was something like a volcano in front of him, it would definitely be in the myriad Devil Ridge's territory. He had to be more careful. If his whereabouts were exposed in the other party's territory, he wouldn't have a good ending. After walking another 200 kilometers, there was no longer any greenery in the surroundings. The pungent smell in the air became more and more obvious. When he looked up, he saw a bare mountain in front of him. At the entrance of the mountain, there was a scorching heat wave spewing out, burning the void to the point of distorting. Lu Yi didn't rush forward. Instead, he first took out the 10-point map to check his position. After a while, he frowned. This location was awkward for him because it was obviously the myriad Devil Ridge's territory. There could be myriad Devil Ridge cultivators patrolling the area at any time. If he went there, it would be difficult to hide his whereabouts. After thinking for a moment, Lu Yi decided to go. He was now a true Lake Realm cultivator. Although he had just advanced to the First Order not long ago, his strength had changed dramatically compared to the past. As long as he didn't encounter an enemy that was too powerful, there wouldn't be any problems. As for the other party's Spirit Sea Realm cultivator, there was no need to worry too much. Generally speaking, the Spirit Sea Realm cultivators guarding the entrance wouldn't easily take action to avoid giving the other party an opportunity. Cultivators of the Divine Sea Realm were like the stabilizing force of the sea for every mountain pass. Even at the front line of the confrontation between the two camps, it was rare to encounter a Spirit Sea Realm cultivator fighting. Because at their level of cultivation, they could see many things that the cultivators below them couldn't. Unless there was some deep hatred, they wouldn't fight under ordinary circumstances. This was a rare opportunity. The fire attribute energy contained in such a volcano was extremely large. If Lu Yi could benefit from it, it wouldn't be as simple as opening a spirit rune on his talent tree. He might even be able to open more. After making up his mind, Lu Yi immediately stepped forward. But before that, he had already called Yi back and stuffed the amber into his spirit beast bag. The environment here was harsh. Although the spirit beast and tiger could resist it, it would still consume a lot of energy. Moreover, the amber symbol was too obvious. If a cultivator familiar with Lu Yi saw it, they would immediately associate it with Lu Yi himself. Putting away the amber, Lu Yi could still find a way to mediate if he encountered a myriad Demon Ridge cultivator. Flying forward, Lu Yi arrived at the mouth of the volcano. Looking down, he saw waves of heat and magma surging and boiling below. From time to time, bubbles would burst, creating an astonishing scene. At this point, even Lu Yi had to push his spirit chi to resist the scorching heat. This reminded him of the Spirit Stream battlefield and the scene of the Land of Fire. At that time, his cultivation wasn't high, so the environment was very similar to the one he was in now. However, although the Land of Fire was in the Spirit Stream battlefield, the quality of the Phoenix fire hidden there was much higher than here. After coming into contact with strange flames and pill fires many times, Lu Yi could tell the quality of these things at a glance. The quality of the fire attribute energy here was naturally not good, but it was superior in quantity. If he could stay here for a long time, the talent tree should be able to eat its fill. He didn't know how many leaves it could ignite and how many spirit inscriptions it could unlock. Lu Yi naturally longed for such a precious place. Without much hesitation, Lu Yi jumped directly into the mouth of the volcano. A few dozen feet away, a figure hidden in the void quietly observed him. From beginning to end, Lu Yi had not noticed at all. Only thought Moon Immortal could have such attainments in the Tao of concealment and follow behind Lu Yi. Seeing him jump in like this, thought Moon Immortal was a little surprised, not knowing what Lu Yi wanted. But then she remembered that Lu Yi cultivated a fire attribute cultivation method, so perhaps he wanted to use the environment here to cultivate. "You're quite bold," thought Moon Immortal snorted softly, but did not follow. She had been following behind Lu Yi mainly because this was Lu Ye's first patrol mission. She only had one subordinate, and he was also a disciple of the Blue Blood sect, so she should pay more attention to him. In the end, he discovered that this brat had actually come to the territory of the Myriad Demons Ridge and even jumped into the volcano. Thought Moon Immortal did not intend to jump in with him. Although the environment here was bad, since Lu Yi chose to do so, he must have a certain degree of confidence. They were all people who had cultivated to the true lake stage, so it was impossible for others to worry about everything. She could pay more attention to Lu Yi, but she would not take care of him like a mother. If that was the case, then he would not be able to go far on the path of cultivation. Looking in the direction of the distant lonely mountain city, Thought Moon Immortal said to herself, "Since we're already here, let's go take a look." It had been a long time since she visited that old ghost Wanzhonggang. She did not know if he was dead or not. In the front line of the confrontation between the two camps, divine sea stage cultivators would not be easily dispatched. There was only one exception. That was Thought Moon Immortal of the Blue Flame Mountain. Other divine sea stage cultivators would guard the entrance of their own Blue Flame Mountain city. For many years, they would guard the entrance of their own Blue Flame Mountain city. The Thought Moon Immortal, on the other hand, did not care about the Blue Flame Mountain at all. When she was in the mood, she would make a trip to Lonely Mountain City, causing the Myriad Devil Ridge in Lonely Mountain City to suffer unspeakably. Wanzhonggang was quite angry about this, but he could not do anything to her. A divine sea stage ghost cultivator who was proficient in concealment and array formation could not be stopped if she wanted to sneak into a place. Even if her whereabouts were exposed, she had the ability to kill her way out. If other divine sea stage cultivators at other mountain passes dared to do this, the Myriad Devil Ridge would definitely give them a taste of their own medicine. However, the Blue Flame Mountain City was special, so the Myriad Devil Ridge was destined to be powerless. Thought Moon Immortal guarded the Blue Flame Mountain City alone. Even if the mountain pass was occupied, so what? Haotian Alliance would not lose a single soldier. On the contrary, Thought Moon Immortal, who was unrestrained, would become even more terrifying. She clicked to download the best book-chasing app. Many readers used this to read books aloud. Chapter 871. Inside the volcano, the temperature was extremely high. The lava below was boiling and bubbles were bursting, creating a shocking scene. In such a harsh environment, even a true lake stage cultivator would lose a layer of skin if they were to accidentally fall into it. Lu Yi looked left and right for a moment, then plunged downwards, activating his spiritual energy to protect himself. He cultivated a fire attribute technique, and his spiritual energy was also of the fire attribute. Compared to other cultivators, he naturally had a stronger resistance to such an environment. Hence, even though the environment was harsh, it was not a big deal. The volcano was more than 100 feet deep. Lu Yi came to the bottom before stopping. He found a suitable spot and took out his Panshan saber to carve out a foothold. With this foothold, Lu Yi activated the power of the talent tree to cover himself. In an instant, the burning sensation disappeared. Not only that, Lu Yi could clearly feel that the surrounding heat was being devoured by the talent tree and turned into fuel for the talent tree. If one activated the insight spirit tattoos in their eyes, they would be able to clearly see that Lu Ye's body was covered with thin, root-like things. These were the roots of the talent tree. It was also the protection of these roots that prevented Lu Yi from being roasted by the scorching heat. Previously, in the Huitian Valley's spiritual land, Hua Liaoyuan of the Sacred Fire sect took out the battle stage and wanted to kill Lu Yi. However, no matter how powerful his spells were, Lu Yi could easily block them. The root of this was the talent tree. With the power of the talent tree, ordinary fire attribute powers could not hurt him at all. Of course, this was also related to the fact that Hua Liaoyuan was not strong enough. Although Hua Liaoyuan's cultivation was stronger than Lu Ye's, they were still in the same realm. Hence, the talent tree could block his fire attribute spells. 1 second to remember Q. If the difference in strength was too great, the talent tree would not be able to block it no matter how strong it was. At this moment, as the talent tree was activated, a steady stream of energy was being devoured by the talent tree. Lu Yi immersed himself in observing and immediately saw a subtle change in the leaves that were about to ignite. The anticipation in his heart grew stronger. 2 to 3 months ago, this spiritual pattern had already shown its embryonic form. However, Lu Yi had not been able to completely ignite it, so he did not know what this spiritual pattern was. Now that he had such a suitable environment, as long as he had enough time, it would be more than enough to ignite this spiritual pattern. Perhaps there would be even more gains. Time flowed as Lu Shi sat cross-legged. While activating the power of the talent tree to devour the scorching heat from all directions, he swallowed a spirit pill to refine its medicinal effects. The matter of cultivation could not be delayed. After entering the true lake tier, the demand for spiritual power would become even greater. It would not be as easy to advance as it was in the Cloud River tier. Gradually, Lu Yi frowned, because he noticed that the leaves on the tree were set on fire. His speed slowed down a little, and this situation undoubtedly confirmed his previous conjecture. The environment here was harsh, and the scorching power was very strong. It filled the surroundings, but in terms of quality, it wasn't high. Previously, the talent tree had swallowed some strange flames and alchemy flames. Although the quantity was not much, the quality was guaranteed, so it could quickly ignite the leaves of the talent tree. In comparison, the quality of the scorching power here could only be said to be mediocre. At this rate, it would probably take 1 or 2 days to completely ignite that spirit pattern. Lu Yi thought for a moment and lowered his head to look at the rolling magma below. If he could let the roots of the talent tree go deep into the magma, perhaps the current situation could be improved. He didn't dare to say how much the quality of the scorching power he absorbed would increase, but at least the quantity would be guaranteed. After having the talent tree for so many years, Lu Yi more or less had some experience on how to activate its power since the first time he accidentally activated its power. With an idea, he immediately started to do it. The power of his mind surged as he tried to control the roots of the talent tree that appeared on the surface of his body. Unexpectedly, it was not too difficult. The talent tree seemed to know his thoughts, and the roots that covered his body rapidly grew longer and fell into the rolling magma below. With the support of the spirit pattern power, there was a strong fiery red energy that flowed into his body. The changes in the burning leaves under the magma became more and more obvious. Lu Yi hurriedly took out the bottle of soul-cleansing water, dipped a little into it, and stuffed it into his mouth. The essence was the power of his mind. In the past, when he swallowed strange flames and alchemy flames, the process was very fast, and the consumption was not great. Lu Yi could ignore it. But now that he was in the territory of the Myriad Demon Ridge, he had to maintain the power of his mind to prevent it from being too exhausted and becoming haggard and exhausted. Only with a sufficiently energetic mind could he deal with sudden dangers. After the roots of the talent tree fell into the magma, the efficiency of swallowing became much faster. In just half a day, the spirit pattern that Lu Yi had been looking forward to for a long time was completely activated. He hurriedly immersed his mind and looked over. At a glance, he saw dozens of leaves connected together and burning fiercely. If he looked carefully, each leaf carried extremely complicated veined patterns, yin and yang, 2 elements, and mixed together. He finally got it. Lu Yi stared at the dozens of leaves, and in the next moment, a familiar feeling came over him. He felt as if his soul was being torn apart, and a large amount of information flowed into his mind uncontrollably. The whole process was as if someone had opened his skull and stirred it with a red soldering iron. Fortunately, Lu Ye's mind power was strong enough now. He had also swallowed the soul-cleansing water as a backup, so this pain only lasted for 2 breaths of time before disappearing. Nation God, Lu Yi Shilong Gathering Edition Appearance, 6th edition Day 2 Feeling Discomfort. He calmly examined the new spirit rune that was passed down from the heavens this time. After a while, his expression became strange. This spirit pattern that he had been looking forward to for 2 or 3 months seemed to be a little different from what he had imagined. What he was looking forward to the most was the void spirit pattern. With his current attainments in Array Dao, the success rate of constructing the void spirit pattern was very high, and it was enough to use the void spirit pattern as the core to set up a teleportation array. However, what he learned from books and what he got from the talent tree were ultimately different. The former had the possibility of failure, while the latter could be completed with the intention of the heart. There had never been a precedent of failure. If he could get the void spirit pattern from the talent tree, he could try many ideas of using the void spirit pattern. At that time, his means of dealing with enemies would definitely become unpredictable. However, what he got this time was not the void spirit pattern. Moreover, this new spirit pattern gave him a feeling that it was a little useless. To say that it was useful, it didn't seem to be useful. To say that it was useless, it might be useful at certain times. Lu Yi quickly patted his face and comforted himself. There are no useless spirit patterns in this world, only useless spirit tattooists. This was something that Mengpu Jiaowan had always kept in mind. For example, when he first got the spirit gathering spirit pattern, he once thought that this spirit pattern was useless. However, it later proved that the spirit gathering spirit pattern was the most useful spirit pattern for him, and also the one that benefited him the most. Without this spirit pattern, he would not have been able to construct the small funnel, and his cultivation speed would not have been so fast. However, it was a good thing to gain something. How could he be greedy? Besides, this was just the beginning. Lu Yi immersed himself in observing the talent tree and found that in this moment, dozens of leaves were glowing red, which undoubtedly meant that the next spirit pattern was something worth looking forward to. He was relieved and took another drop of soul-cleansing water to replenish the mental power he had consumed. As the scorching power in the magma was continuously devoured, the light on the dozens of leaves became more and more intense, and gradually showed signs of burning completely. However, at this moment, Lu Ye's heart suddenly jolted, and he frowned. There was the sound of something breaking through the air from afar, and there was also the sound of people talking. Judging from these movements, it was obvious that there was not only one person, but a group. The patrolling cultivators of Myriad Devil Ridge? This was Myriad Devil Ridge's territory, so it was natural that he would encounter Myriad Devil Ridge cultivators. Lu Yi was not surprised and had even expected it. Therefore, he immediately retracted the power of the talent tree and activated the aura-concealing spirit pattern to conceal his own aura. He hoped that these people were just passing by. However, what he was afraid of would happen. This group of cultivators seemed to have come for this volcano. Soon, the sound of their conversation could be heard clearly. Although this place is under the jurisdiction of Lone Mountain City and there are not many people from Grand Heaven Alliance on the opposite side of Mount Ash, you have to be careful in everything you do. Now that you have entered the State Guard, you have to listen to orders. This is no longer your respective sex, and there are no senior brothers or sisters to take care of you. If anyone dares to disobey orders, then don't blame me for being rude. Sparse shouts of acknowledgement rang out. The person who spoke earlier changed the topic, and his fierce tone became calm. Of course, our mission this time is not troublesome. As long as you listen to orders obediently, there won't be any problems. Since it's a mission, after completing it, you will be able to obtain merit. I believe I don't need to repeat the importance of merit. There aren't many opportunities to obtain merit on the Cloud River battlefield. Senior Brother Ing, I'll have to trouble you this time. A soft voice could be heard. It was a female cultivator, soft and gentle. Call me Lord. When you entered the State Guard, someone should have told you that there are no senior brothers or junior brothers on the front lines, only superiors and subordinates. Lord Ing. Be serious, all of you. Immediately after, a woman's laughter could be heard. Looking at this posture, this Lord Ing was very easy to get along with. Therefore, even if this trip was a dream, the other cultivators were too afraid of him, and even had the guts to joke with him. Alright, when we reach the place, wait for me at the 11th Society. I'll go in and check out the situation. In the depths of the volcano, Lu Ye's expression was strange. It was too coincidental to meet this guy. This person should have already advanced to the True Lake stage and entered the 10,000 State Guard. The State Guard at the Demon Ridge. For him to appear here, could it be that he was assigned to the Lone Mountain City Pass? Wasn't this going to be a show against him? Lu Yi could still remember the time when they were surrounded by zombies in the Heavenly Temple of the Wushuang continent. The Kyushu team was in imminent danger, and almost everyone thought that they were dead for sure. At that time, this fellow vented his anger. Human Tao Great Sage. Chapter 872. At that time, the situation was urgent and he was shrouded in death chi. This guy vented all his grievances and scolded to his heart's content, as if he wouldn't have the chance to vent his anger if he didn't. In the end, at the crucial moment, a large number of 9 prefectures' nightmare army arrived and resolved the danger of the team of 8. After that, the few people who had been poisoned by the Origin Corpse poison went to Wuxia for treatment, while Lu Yi took giant armor and Lan Zi with him to the golden zombie master of the hunter element. But Lu Yi remembered this clearly. He thought that after returning to the 9 prefectures and leaving the Cloud River battlefield, everyone would have reached the true lake realm and there wouldn't be many chances to meet again. Who would have thought that fate would make fools of people and they would meet again so soon? Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Thinking about it carefully, it wasn't strange. They were all cultivators from the War Province and had to enter the War Province guards to come to the front lines. Lu Yi raised his hand and pressed on the hilt of the mountain pan saber at his waist. Above the volcano, Wuxia flew over. Although they had both reached the true lake realm recently, he had entered the War Province guards much earlier than Lu Yi. When he had just reached the Cloud River realm, he had already joined the War Province guards of the 10,000 Demons Ridge. Regarding the situation at the front lines, he naturally knew more than Lu Yi. Previously, he was restricted by his cultivation and couldn't take on important tasks. Now that he had reached the true lake realm, he could be considered outstanding. This time, he received a mission to lead the team to collect some earth fire. The mission wasn't difficult, it just required time. Therefore, he was the only true lake realm cultivator in the team. The others were all Cloud River realm cultivators who had just entered the War Province guards. Recently, the Cloud River battlefield had been closed and the Cloud River realm cultivators had nowhere to go. They had all rushed to the front lines. This caused the number of cultivators at the various mountain passes to increase greatly and conflicts broke out frequently. After the experience of working with Lu Yi and the others on the Wuxia continent, Wuxia had a different view of the conflict between the two camps that had lasted for thousands of years. If it was before, he would think that every cultivator of the Grand Heaven Alliance deserved to die. This had nothing to do with personal grievances, but because of the different camp standpoints. He also did the same. But now, he wouldn't think that way anymore. Wuxia was at a loss. From what he had observed, the lofty and mysterious heaven's secret often encouraged cooperation between the cultivators of the two factions. On the trip to the Wuxia continent, the 9 people of the 9 states advance team had all received the guidance of Tianji. Only then could they gather in one place and rush to the Wuxia continent to save the broken domain. This was clearly the encouragement and arrangement of Tianji. There were also many mystic realms in the Cloud River battlefield. When the cultivators of the two camps entered them, they would have to join forces. But if that was the case, then what was the point of the two camps fighting each other for thousands of years? He couldn't figure it out, so he went to consult his master. He thought that his master would be able to give him some pointers, but his master didn't say much. He just asked him to find Day by himself. Wuxia, on the other hand, was even more confused. Because of this, he almost delayed his advancement to the true lake stage. The reason why he entered the Lonely Mountain Pass was not because of the arrangement of the military province guards of the 10,000 Devil Ridge, but because of his own choice. Because according to what he knew, the front lines of the military province between the two camps were the calmest. He needed some time to sort out his messy thoughts. He wanted to use the peace here to figure out the problem that was troubling him. On the other side of the Tsangyen Mountain Pass, there was a legendary woman guarding it alone. Other than her, there were no other cultivators from the Grand Heaven Alliance. Therefore, there was no need to fight here. He wouldn't be killed, and there was no need to kill. Although the legendary woman would occasionally visit the Lonely Mountain Pass and cause chaos in the Lonely Mountain Pass, and with her abilities, she would definitely cause the 10,000 Devil Ridge to suffer heavy casualties. But up until now, she had never done anything like bullying the weak. Every time she went to the Lonely Mountain Pass, she only killed one Zhang Gang. Although she failed repeatedly, she persevered. Wuxia didn't know what enmity there was between the two Divine Sea Stage cultivators that made the extraordinary woman so persistent. But that was the matter of the Divine Sea Stage cultivators. It wasn't something he needed to consider. He just needed some time to think and search for day. Activating his spiritual energy to protect his body, he blocked the heat wave. Wuxia floated down and saw the figure sitting cross-legged on the rock wall at the bottom of the volcano. There was someone. Wuxia immediately became alert. Although the probability of encountering a cultivator from the Grand Heaven Alliance at this position was not high, there were always exceptions. He had always been a careful person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lived until today. The moment he saw that person, Wuxia's gaze went to the person's waist. There was no saber at the waist. Wuxia's heart settled. The trip to the Wuxia continent had left him with some psychological trauma. Now, he didn't like weapon cultivators who used sabers the most, especially those who used long sabers. When he looked up again, his mind, which had just calmed down, became chaotic again. Because the person was wearing a mask, he couldn't see his face clearly. He could only infer from the figure that it should be a man. He almost cursed out loud. Because as far as he knew, Wuxia used to wear a mask everywhere for a period of time to hide his identity. In such a remote volcano, he met someone who was wearing a mask and didn't dare to show his face. This was very problematic. When he looked carefully, Wuxia's heart turned cold. Because this person's figure was almost the same as Wuxia's. Even though he was sitting there cross-legged, Wuxia had followed Wuxia for a long time in the Peerless Continent, so he naturally had some understanding of him. As for whether there was a little beast called Hupo on this person's shoulder, it wasn't important. Now that there were spirit beast pouches for sale in the Tianji treasure house, all the cultivators of the beast taming school would buy one to keep their pet beasts. The environment in the volcano was hot, but Wuxia's body and mind were cold. He roared in his heart. Wasn't this guy Wuxia? Why was he here? The sweat on his forehead quickly evaporated. Wuxia clenched his saber tightly, then loosened it, then tightened it again. His heart was filled with mixed feelings, but he didn't have the courage to fight. Because if the person in front of him was really Wuxia, he was no match for him. Everyone who followed him on this trip was going to die. He didn't even have the chance to send out a message. Fellow Taoist, what's the matter? The first clan, just when Wuxia felt that he was doomed, Wuxia spoke up. That's right. His voice was naturally not his own. At his cultivation level, even if he didn't cultivate, it was easy for him to change his voice with his spirit force. The reason he didn't draw his saber and even put away his saber before Wuxia arrived was mainly because Wuxia didn't want to give up such a precious place. Disregarding everything else, if his identity was exposed here, regardless of whether he could kill all the cultivators from the Myriad Devil Ridge, he wouldn't be able to come back here in the future. Moreover, after his trip to the Peerless Continent, he had also become aware of some things. Although his state of mind was not as orderly as Wuxia's, he would no longer draw his sword whenever he met people from the Myriad Devil Ridge like before. His strength had increased, and his vision had changed. He could see many things that he couldn't before. No matter. Wuxia said with difficulty. He was a bit uncertain whether this guy was Wuxia or not. If it really was him, he shouldn't have asked him this question. He had scolded Wuxia severely in the Heavenly Palace on the Wuxia continent. According to Wuxia's character of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance and even 100-fold, when he saw him at this moment, he would definitely slash at him with his saber. How could he possibly ask him politely if he was all right? With a slash of his saber, he would be in trouble. But if it wasn't him, Wuxia believed in his own eyes. He definitely wasn't mistaken. This figure was undoubtedly Wuxia. That period of time spent together and being at his beck and call was not a waste of time. Was this friend from Lonely Mountain City? Don't worry, I'm also from the Myriad Devil Ridge, Wuxia said. Wuxia chuckled. He roared in his heart, I don't believe you. Don't try to trick me. Right now, his mind was filled with thoughts of how to secretly send out a message or tell the Cloud River tier cultivators waiting outside to scatter and flee. Wuxia was here. If they didn't flee, they would definitely be slaughtered. Just as he was thinking this, Wuxia suddenly raised his hand and turned the back of his hand to activate the battlefield imprint on the back of his hand. The red light imprinted in his eyes made Wuxia so excited that he almost cried. He had never felt so close to this red light before. Almost collapsing, Wuxia sheathed his saber. "Fellow Taoist, you scared me to death." The saber could be sheathed, the beast could be sheathed, and the face could be covered, but the battlefield imprint couldn't be faked. This was a gift from the heavens. The red light was from the Myriad Devil Ridge, the blue light was from the Grand Heaven Alliance, and the yellow light was from the Heavenly Secret Commerce Alliance. This was common knowledge that any cultivator who had just embarked on the path of cultivation would know. So this person was indeed from the Myriad Devil Ridge. Wuxia looked surprised. "I'm just cultivating here. What's there to be afraid of?" "I mistook you for someone else," Wuxia explained. He looked Wuxia up and down. "You really look too similar." "Someone else?" Under the mask, Wuxia's eyes flashed. "It seems that person has left you with many bad memories." Wuxia sighed. "It's hard to explain. Fellow Taoist, you don't know. That person is full of evil and kills people like flies. Moreover, he is vengeful for the smallest grievance. He is a complete villain. However, that person is very powerful. I'm no match for him. I'm ashamed." As he spoke, Wuxia suddenly shuddered and met Wuxia's eyes under the mask. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Wuxia suddenly had a feeling that this person wanted to kill him. "How did you offend him?" Wuxia lowered his eyes. Wuxia said, "It's not about offending him. That person is from the Grand Heaven Alliance. He is a natural enemy of us Myriad Devil Ridge cultivators. Click and download the best book-chasing app." Many readers use this to read books aloud. Chapter 873. Unwilling to talk about this sad topic, Wuxia changed the topic and introduced himself. Wuxia of the Dark Azura Hall, the current Lone Mountain City Pass Guerrilla Guard. "How should I address you?" "I've long heard of Brother Ying's name. Niu Meng." He could no longer use the identity of Yi Lu. Although he had never used this alias in front of Wuxia, there was no such thing as an absolute secret. The 10,000 Demon Ridge had paid a lot of attention to him, and many people should know that he had used this alias before. Moreover, if he really used this name in front of Wuxia, it would be obvious that he was trying to hide something. As long as Wuxia was not an idiot, he would be able to make the connection. He could only use another name. Niu Meng, the sect leader of the Black Tortoise sect in the realm of beasts, had left a deep impression on him. "I'm a loose cultivator. I don't belong to any sect. I'm currently on duty at the Eastern Mountain Pass." Wuxia was a bit surprised. "The Eastern Mountain Pass is quite far from here. Why are you here?" The map showed that the Eastern Mountain Pass was separated from here by nearly 10 passes, a distance of more than 10,000 miles. Under normal circumstances, the state guards would not cross so many passes. "The environment here is good. I'm just here to cultivate," Wuxia explained casually. "I see." Wuxia did not doubt him. In his opinion, this cultivator called Kong Niu in front of him did indeed have the fire attribute. It was not too strange for him to come here to cultivate. Cultivation with such harsh requirements for the environment was usually to cultivate some kind of secret art. It had nothing to do with increasing one's cultivation. "Why are you here, Brother Ying?" Wuxia explained, "It's like this. The pass needs some earth fire. After the mission was issued, I led a team to collect it. Will I disturb Brother Niu?" "You do what you need to do. As long as you don't come here, it's fine. In that case, I'll have to trouble you." Wuxia cupped his fists, thinking that this Niu Meng was quite easy to talk to. Wuxia nodded and said no more. He continued to activate the power of the talent tree, letting the roots of the talent tree reach into the magma and devour the power of the fire. Seeing this, Wuxia flew out. After a while, he returned with a group of people. These people were all cultivators at the Cloud River Tier, and their cultivation levels varied. When they arrived at this place, they all activated their spiritual power to protect themselves. There were quite a number of female cultivators in the group. In a group of more than 10 people, there were 7 or 8 female cultivators. They were quite pleasing to the eye. These Cloud River Tier cultivators had probably received Wuxia's instructions in advance. After entering the mouth of the volcano, these Cloud River tier cultivators all tried to avoid Lu Ye's side as much as possible. They busied themselves on the other side, and naturally wouldn't rashly disturb him. Lu Yi was multitasking, urging the power of his talent tree while observing these people's movements. He found that they all took out a spirit artifact that looked like a gourd and threw it into the magma, controlling it with their spirit energy. After a long time, he took out the spiritual tool, took out a ball of bright flame, and sealed it in a special container. This was the first time Lu Yi witnessed the process of gathering the earth core fire with his own eyes. He finally understood how the earth core fire in the Tianji treasure trove had come about. He had originally guessed that someone had specially collected the earth core fire and sold it into the Tianji treasure trove. Now, it seemed that this might be the case. The process of gathering the earth core fire was dry and tedious. The environment here was harsh, and the group of cultivators were all sweating profusely. Especially the female cultivators, whose wet clothes stuck to their bodies, looking even more pleasing to the eye. Although these Cloud River tier cultivators of the Myriad Demon Ridge didn't disturb Lu Yi, they still whispered among themselves. The topics of conversation between female cultivators were endless, especially when so many female cultivators were gathered together. From time to time, laughter could be heard. As for Wuxia, he didn't need to be so tired. His mission this time was to protect these people, so he stood at the side and quietly watched, in case something unexpected happened. Suddenly someone complained, "I don't know who it is." God damn it, the amount of earth core fire stored in the Tianji treasure trove was extremely plentiful. Now that the earth core fire was in the Tianji treasure trove, it was quickly sold out. Now that we need the earth core fire, we have to gather it ourselves. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows when he heard this. God damn it, this seemed to be him? However, listening to the meaning of this person's words, Lu Yi understood one thing. He had always thought that the Tianji treasure trove didn't have enough earth core fire because he had bought too much. Now, it seemed that this was only part of the reason. The biggest reason was that he had bought too much, causing other cultivators who needed the earth core fire to feel a sense of crisis and buy it together with him. In the end, it led to a vicious cycle, causing the earth core fire in the Tianji treasure trove to be snatched away as soon as it appeared. The group of people complained one after another. Wuxia glanced at Lu Yi as if afraid of disturbing him, and turned back to reprimand everyone. Pay attention. The environment here is special, and there may be some fire-type demonic beasts hiding. A bright-eyed female cultivator covered her mouth and chuckled. With Lord Ying here, if any demonic beasts really don't have eyes and jump out, Lord can also protect us. Sisters, don't you think so? The female cultivators all agreed, as if they had placed their lives in Wuxia's hands and had absolute trust in him. That female cultivator even said sweetly, "Lord, if we really encounter any danger, you can't abandon us. You all are used to being pampered in your own sections. How many times have I told you, this is the front line of the state guards, not your sections. Be more serious." Although it was a reprimand, his words were not harsh, and there was even a faint smile on his face. It was obvious that he enjoyed the flattery of the female cultivators. He couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This was the treatment that a proud son of heaven like him should have. In this group, he was the leader, and everyone listened to his orders. His strength was the barrier that protected them. As the pairs of beautiful eyes moved, they were full of worship and faint emotions towards him. Thinking back to the time in the Wuxia continent, what kind of days had he lived? The past was unbearable to look back on. As expected, as long as there was no Lu Yi, that bastard, I could stand up. The environment was harsh, and even Cloud River tier cultivators couldn't hold on for too long. In Wuxia's group, there were cultivators who couldn't hold on and flew out to rest. When they recovered, they would continue to collect the earth core fire. Every time this happened, Wuxia would take the initiative to take over the tasks of those who were resting. This attitude made the group of Cloud River tier cultivators feel that he was more approachable, unlike many true Lake tier cultivators who thought that they were superior by a major tier and ordered them around. But they didn't think about it. Which true Lake tier cultivator didn't come from the Cloud River tier? The people of the 10,000 Demons Ridge continued to gain, And Lu Ye's side also gained quite a lot. The light of the dozens of leaves on the talent tree went from dark to bright, and burned fiercely again. Lu Yi didn't delay, and immediately began to investigate this spirit pattern. He immersed his mind and looked at the many burning leaves. The tearing pain in his spirit made his body sway slightly, and attracted the attention of Ing Wuji, who was not far away. "Brother Niu." Lu Yi raised his hand. "It's nothing, there's a little problem." Peng Wuji said with concern, "Brother Niu, be careful." Lu Yi nodded, and checked the huge amount of information in his mind. Soon, he understood what the new spirit pattern he had obtained was. Instantly, his face lit up with joy. Compared to the spirit pattern he had obtained previously, which felt a little useless, this spirit pattern called Lunar Reversal was undoubtedly much more useful. Unlike the useless spirit rune from before, which he had never seen in books, he had seen the Lunar Reversal spirit rune before. It was just that it was too complicated to construct, much more complicated than the void spirit pattern. Not only was it complicated, but it was also very difficult to construct. Lu Yi had tried to construct it before, but he didn't succeed. Originally, he wanted to practice more when he had time in the future. He wanted to practice and improve his proficiency in constructing this spirit pattern. He had been constantly on the move and busy cultivating, so he didn't have time at all. But he didn't expect that this spirit pattern would be activated on the talent tree. He didn't see the void spirit pattern that he had been longing for, but he obtained Lunar Reversal instead. This was really a case of planting flowers with the intention not blooming, but planting willows with the intention not growing, and willows with the intention not growing. Lunar Reversal was the core spirit pattern of a type of spirit pattern called the Great Counter Formation. This formation had the characteristic of reflecting the enemy's attacks, especially some spells that left the body. The rebound effect was very obvious, and it had a certain effect on direct attacks like swords and sabers. When this spirit pattern was constructed alone, it also had the same effect. It could be said that this was a spirit pattern that was specially used to defeat the strong. If he encountered a strong opponent, this spirit pattern might be able to display some miraculous effects at the crucial moment. To Lu Yi, this was undoubtedly a very useful spirit rune. Including the previous spirit pattern, he had already activated 2 spirit patterns on this trip. He had gained a lot. Naturally, Lu Yi wouldn't be satisfied with this. It was rare to find such an environment, so he naturally had to make the best use of it and let the talent tree eat its fill in one go. Moreover, there was also a small team led by Ing Wuji competing at the side. Looking at them, it was very likely that there would often be cultivators from the Myriad Demon's Ridge coming to collect the Earth Core Fire. If he missed this opportunity, it wouldn't be easy to find a similar environment in the future. On the talent tree, as the power of the fire was continuously devoured, another leaf lit up. However, Lu Yi knew at a glance that this leaf didn't carry spirit patterns, but the construction techniques of spirit patterns. These things were very useful to him. The reason why he could construct such a complicated spirit pattern like the void at the Cloud River realm and the success rate was extremely high was that he had these gains as the foundation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to have such achievements after only a few years of contact with the Tao of spirit patterns, no matter how talented he was in this Tao. His current attainments in the Tao of spirit patterns were mainly due to his talent and the various gains he had obtained from the talent tree. After lighting up more than a dozen leaves that carried the construction techniques, there was finally a new gain. On the talent tree, dozens of leaves once again bloomed at the same time, which undoubtedly showed the complexity and importance of the next spirit pattern. Today, Lu Yi also discovered a problem. Nowadays, the talent tree didn't have many spirit patterns that could be carried by one leaf. Most of them could only be carried by many leaves. This kind of spirit pattern was complicated to construct, but once it was successfully constructed, it would play a greater role. Arjarji Human Path Great Sage. Chapter 874. As time passed, the leaves on the talent tree continued to be ignited. Looking at the talent tree now, it was burning fiercely and engulfed in flames. It was a world of difference from when he first saw it. Although many of the leaves did not carry complete spirit patterns, Lu Yi still gained a lot. This was really a case of not opening for 3 years, but opening for 3 years. He was originally a little worried that the missing Moon Immortal would give him some other mission since he had not returned to the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass for so long. But recently, there had been no response from the Wei Ling, and the missing Moon Immortal did not even look for him. Lu Yi felt like he had been forgotten, but this was exactly what he wanted. If it was really like before, the missing Moon Immortal would always give him some unimportant missions, and he would not have time to do anything else. While he had gained a lot, Wuji's team had also gained a lot. The team of more than 10 people continued to collect earth fire, and now, they had already collected a few hundred portions. If these things were bought from the Tianji treasury, it would not cost much merit points. But now, the Tianji treasury did not have any stock, and they could only rely on themselves to collect. There was an additional amount of merit points in the battlefield imprint, about 20,000 points. Lu Yi knew that it was his monthly salary as a guard. Counting it, it had been a month since he reported to the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass. There was still another amount of merit points that had not been distributed, because it was not time yet. It was the reward for his patrol duty. The missing Moon Immortal had given him a mission to patrol the surroundings of the Ashen Flame Mountain Pass, and also gave him the patrol duty. These kinds of missions were long-term and not one-time, so the rewards were also distributed monthly. However, Lu Yi was not sure if he would be able to receive it, because he had been staying in the fire all this time. He had not fulfilled his patrol duty at the mountain pass. Tianji was fair and just. Since he had not fulfilled his duty, logically speaking, there was probably no chance for him to receive the reward for this mission. Every time a leaf on the talent tree was completely ignited, he would check the information it carried. However, after his 5th spiritual rune was activated, the talent tree seemed to have undergone some changes. The roots of the talent tree pierced into the magma and continued to devour the power of fire. However, the leaves on the talent tree that were not ignited did not have any reaction. This gave Lu Yi a fright. The talent tree was his greatest secret, and also what he relied on. Since he started cultivating, it had provided him with unimaginable help. If something happened to the talent tree, the loss would be too great. However, after a careful check, he confirmed that there wasn't any problem with the talent tree. Many spirit runes could still be activated and constructed at will. Right now, the talent tree was like a fairy, entering a state where one could only enter and not exit. No matter how much fire it swallowed, the leaves that were not set ablaze did not move at all. Gradually, Lu Yi discovered the root of the problem. The continuous devouring of the fire energy did not cause any changes to the leaves, but the roots that extended from the roots had a different change. The roots of the talent tree had clearly become stronger, denser, and more solid. Originally, these roots didn't look much different from ordinary roots. But now, they were dark red, as if they were pieces of iron that had been burned red. Such a change was undoubtedly a good thing. Lu Yi suddenly had the idea that the talent tree was transforming. Although he wasn't sure if his idea was right or wrong, based on the current situation, it was very likely so. Before the transformation, the talent tree could already bring him great help. What would it be like after the transformation? Lu Yi couldn't help but look forward to it. Lord Ying, has the temperature here dropped? A cultivator from the Myriad Demons Ridge suddenly asked. Compared to when they first arrived, the environment here was obviously less harsh after half a month. The others were also keenly aware of this. Wuji nodded. It should be because we collected too much earth fire. Although that was what he said, he was more or less puzzled. They had indeed collected a lot of earth fire during this period of time, but it was not to the extent of changing the environment here. But thinking about it, there must have been others who had come here to collect earth fire over the years, so it was not strange for the environment to change over time. What he didn't know was that besides them, Lu Yi was also secretly devouring the fire energy here, and the amount of earth fire Lu Yi was devouring was much greater than what they had collected. Hold on for a few more days, then we'll go back, Wuji said. The efficiency of collecting earth fire now was not as good as it had been at the beginning. A few more days would be enough, so there was no need to stay here any longer. As he spoke, he glanced at Lu Yi, who was sitting cross-legged on the other side of the stone wall, wondering what kind of secret technique this brother ox was cultivating. During this period of time, he didn't seem to have any gains, and instead frequently made mistakes in his cultivation. 2 days later, the temperature of the volcanic crater had clearly dropped. Not only did Wuji's efficiency of collecting earth fire become extremely low, but even Lu Yi could feel that the speed at which the talent tree was devouring earth fire was much slower than before. Should he snatch the earth fire that they had mined? During this period of time, they had mined at least 1,000 portions of earth fire, perhaps even more. Perhaps this would allow the talent tree to complete its transformation, but if he really made a move, then he would not be able to hide his identity and would also expose one of his trump cards. Whether this transaction was worth it or not, Lu Yi still had to weigh the pros and cons. Before he could make a decision, there was a sudden cry of surprise. "Lord Ying!" Instantly, there was panic on the other side. Lu Yi raised his head and looked over, only to see that the members of the Myriad Demon Ridge had all gathered together. Wuji stood in front of them like an old hen, protecting the group of Cloud River tier cultivators behind him. He looked warily at the center of the lava pool. In the center, as the lava churned, a giant bubble burst, as if something was rushing out from the depths of the lava. Lu Yi also stood up, his expression wary. In such a special environment, it was easy for some demonic beasts to breed. Wuji had previously warned the Cloud River tier cultivators under his command to be careful of any demonic beasts that might appear here. However, after such a long time, nothing had happened here, causing everyone to let down their guard. Now, by the looks of it, there really was a possibility that demonic beasts were breeding here. Moreover, looking at the great commotion, it was possible that they were not ordinary demonic beasts. "Let's leave this place first." Though Wuji did not know what would happen later, this was obviously not a place to stay for long. Just as he was about to lead the Cloud River tier cultivators away, the thing that was surging out from the bottom of the lava pool appeared. It was not some demonic beast, but rather a giant stone platform. As the stone platform rose rapidly from below, the boiling lava flowed in all directions. The intense heat caused the stone platform to appear dark red after being burned, and waves of heat rolled out in all directions. The group was all shocked and uncertain. No one had thought that there would be such a stone platform hidden under the lava, and that it would suddenly appear today. Wuji frowned, and was just about to step forward to investigate when he saw that Brother Nyo's figure had already swayed, and he landed on the stone platform. The giant stone platform and the tiny figure formed an extremely sharp contrast. Wuji also arrived in a flash, and after looking around he asked, "Brother Nyo, do you recognize the origin of this thing?" After so many years, many cultivators had come to the mouth of this volcano, but no one had ever discovered this thing. The timing of its appearance was a bit strange. Lu Yi slowly shook his head. This stone platform looked ancient at a glance, and for some reason, it had been submerged in the mouth of the volcano. But even so, it showed no signs of damage, and even the many complex patterns on the stone platform had not been erased. It was clear that the material of this stone platform was extraordinary. Lu Yi focused his gaze on the crisscrossing patterns, comparing them with the information of the many Formation Dao imprints in his mind, trying to figure out what was going on. "Lord Ying, this thing has suddenly appeared. Perhaps there is some kind of opportunity?" a cultivator asked. Wuji shook his head and said, "Don't think too much. The appearance of this thing should be related to the loss of the power of the flames here during this period of time. Previously, the power of the flames was abundant, so it could safely hide underground. Now that the power of the flames is gone, it has surfaced." After saying this, he looked at Lu Yi and asked, "Brother Nyo, what do you think?" Lu Yi nodded, "I think so too." Wuji's words were in line with his thoughts. Otherwise, there was no reason for such a coincidence. During this period of time, the two of them had been wantonly absorbing the power of the flames here, causing the environment here to improve. He didn't know what this stone platform was for, but it should be related to the power of the flames. Previously, when the power of the flames was abundant, it had not appeared. "Brother Nyo is proficient in the Formation Dao?" Ing Wuji saw Lu Yi concentrating on studying the patterns on the stone platform and inexplicably felt a little flustered. This person's attainments in the formation Dao were not low. Lu Yi didn't even raise his head. I know a little, but I'm not proficient. He then added, it's normal for an art cultivator to cultivate the formation Dao as well. That's true. Ing Wuji relaxed. Brother Ing should be proficient in the formation Dao, right? What can you see? Ing Wuji said, it looks a little like a spirit-gathering array, but it also doesn't seem like one. As for what the formation Dao is for, as his voice fell, the stone platform suddenly hummed and shook. Immediately after, patterns lit up and spread out in all directions. Around the stone platform, patterns of flowers and plants lit up. In an instant, the images of flowers and plants appeared around the stone platform. 1 flower, 2 flowers. There were more than 40 flowers. Everyone could clearly feel that the surrounding heat was being wildly swallowed up by the stone platform. Many pairs of eyes looked towards a certain cultivator in the crowd. Just now, it was this person who had activated his spirit power and caused the 51 stone platforms to change like this. Being stared at like this, the cultivator was a little flustered and said awkwardly, I saw that the patterns on the stone platform were intact, so I wanted to try and see if I could activate its power. I didn't think it would really activate. He thought that rather than studying it, it was better to see it with his own eyes. I was wrong, please forgive me, sir. The cultivator hurriedly admitted his mistake. Chapter 875. Ing Wuji shook his head. It's fine. However, don't act rashly next time. This time, he had only caused some changes, and there was no danger. However, he could not say for sure next time. It was very rash to act rashly before he understood something. However, it was this cultivator's actions that allowed Ing Wuji to see some clues. He said, when you joined the sect, you should have tested your talent. What was the result? The cultivator was slightly ashamed. He's an average talent, and he has 43 leaves. Ing Wuji turned to look at Lu Yi. Brother Niu. Lu Yi bowed. The flower shadows that appeared just now were exactly 43. So it's true. Ing Wuji understood. Looks like it's true. The two of them spoke one after another as if they had reached some conclusion. The group of Cloud River tier cultivators were somewhat thoughtful and confused. A female cultivator said, Lord Ing, you mean to say that this stone platform is used to test one's talent? Perhaps it is, and perhaps it isn't, but it is indeed used to test one's talent. It has the ability to test one's innate talent. Ing Wuji took in a deep breath. This item must have existed for a very long time. It's very likely that it was created before this era. The reason for this judgment was that the methods used by the major sects to test the talent of their disciples were different from what was shown on this stone platform. Lu Yi had also tested his talent in the Evil Moon Valley. During the whole process, he only needed to sit in a magic array and let the cultivator who tested his talent guide his spiritual power to test him. This was still fresh in his memory. Since the beginning of this era, the method that the cultivators of the 9 states used to test their talent was the same as what Lu Yi had experienced. It might have been improved, but the general method would not change. The stone platform before him was clearly different from the method that the 9 states used to test their talent. Who wants to try? Ing Wuji said. The female cultivator who had spoken earlier said, I'll try. As she said this, she channeled her spiritual power into the stone platform beneath her. The veins lit up, and the formation was activated. The flower shadows at the edge of the stone platform appeared again. There were 53 of them. The female cultivator said, it really is used to test one's talent. The number 53 is the same as my talent. If that was the case, then this stone platform would not be of much use. However, its material was strange. If he could find a way to bring it back and sell it to the Tianji treasury, he might be able to make a decent profit. After confirming that there wasn't any danger, the cultivators' playful hearts were aroused. One smoke after another, they tried it out, and the results they obtained all confirmed their respective talents. Lord Ing, why don't you give it a try? A female cultivator asked, curious about Ing Wuji's talent. as the core disciple of this generation of Sun Luo Temple. Previously, he had achieved good results in the Cloud River battle, so Ingwuji's talent was naturally excellent. He intended to show off his prowess in front of these Cloud River tier cultivators, so he did not refuse and said, "Then let's give it a try." His spirit energy was activated, and the array hummed. Cries of surprise rang out. Everyone looked up and saw that the flower shadows around the stone platform were almost connected together. There were a total of 62 flowers. A cultivator's talent was 64, and if one wanted to become a core disciple of the various great sects, one's talent had to be at least 60 leaves. Ingwuji's talent of 62 leaves was top-notch even in the whole 9 states. Feeling the envious and worshipful gazes around him, Ingwuji said, "Although talent is important in the cultivation of cultivators, talent cannot determine the limit of one's cultivation. You all have to remember that your own hard work is the most important. If someone relies on his talent and does not improve, in the end he will not achieve much. On the other hand, even if his talent is insufficient, the heavens reward the diligent, and there will be a way for those with a will to succeed." His lecture made the many Cloud River tier cultivators nod, indicating that they had understood. However, as he spoke, he could not help but laugh. A female cultivator said sweetly, "Lord Ing, what interesting thing have you thought of?" "I thought of a person." Lu Yi looked up at him, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Ingwuji was completely unaware, and did not need anyone to ask. He continued, "I'm sure you all are familiar with Lu Ye of the Jade Blood Sect. They were all at the Cloud River tier, and had fought in the Cloud River battlefield. Who had not heard of Lu Ye's name?" Instantly, their expressions became serious. Actually, his real name was Lu Yi, but for some reason, he was called Lu Ye. Now that he has become famous, he is called this. Do you know why he is called Lu Ye? I have not heard of this. I heard that when his talent was tested, he only received the evaluation of Ye, which just so happened to match his name, so some people jokingly called him Lu Ye. In the end, the news spread just like that. Ye's talent, haha, don't you think it's funny? As he laughed, Ingwuji suddenly shuddered and turned to look in Lu Ye's direction. For some reason, he felt that this person wanted to kill him. He did not seem to have offended this brother Nyo. What was up with this person? His expression became serious, and he changed the topic. I am not telling you all this for you to laugh at his talent. Lu Ye is so talented, and he has achieved so much. Now, on the Cloud River battlefield, who does not know his name? Thus, for cultivators, talent is important, but it is not the most important thing. But, my lord, with Lu Ye's talent, his cultivation efficiency must be extremely low. How can Lu Ye's cultivation speed be so fast? Is this fake news purposely released by the Grand Heaven Alliance? Perhaps he has more than Ye's talent, but his talent is definitely not too high. As for the fake news, a Cloud River Realm cultivator is no different from a lake. The Grand Heaven Alliance is so big, why would they care about a single Cloud River Realm cultivator? Why would the cultivators release fake news? As for why he can cultivate so fast, he must have obtained many fortuitous encounters. I was fortunate enough to work with him for a period of time. Although we are on different sides, I have to say that this person has some tricks up his sleeve. Some cultivators were not convinced. If he relies on fortuitous encounters alone, he won't be able to go far. Naturally, someone else agreed and flattered Ingwuji. Lord Ying's talent is unparalleled. Your future achievements will definitely be above Lu Ye's. I hope so. Ingwuji turned to look at Lu Yi. Brother Nyo, do you want to try? Lu Yi wanted to refuse. There was no point in testing his talent. He had the little spirit-gathering funnel. His talent did not matter much to him. However, on second thought, ever since he obtained the Soaring Dragon Realm's broken origin, his talent seemed to have undergone some earth-shattering changes. In the past, he could not absorb the heaven and earth spirit chi at all. It was as though there was a barrier in his body that prevented the heaven and earth spirit chi from entering his body. Only the little spirit-gathering funnel could break through this barrier. However, now, even if he did not construct the little spirit-gathering funnel, Lu Yi could still cultivate like an ordinary cultivator. It was just that he rarely did so. After all, in terms of efficiency, his original technique was more impressive. He could test his talent to see how good it was. With that thought in mind, he channeled his spiritual power into the stone platform beneath him. The veins swiftly lit up, and the great formation was activated. The flower patterns around the stone platform shone brightly. Above each pattern, the shadow of a flower appeared in the air. In an instant, the flower shadows connected head to tail and covered the entire area around the stone platform. The others watched with their mouths agape. Wuji's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Lu Yi was slightly surprised as well. He knew that his talent was not bad, but he did not expect it to be this good. 64 flower shadows appeared, 2 more than Wuji. This meant that Lu Yi had a 64-leaf talent. Gifted by the heavens, this was a true gifted by the heavens. In fact, it could be said that his talent was more than 64-leaf because that was the limit of what this place could test. Brother Nyo, are you really a rogue cultivator? Wuji finally came to his senses. Was there such a rogue cultivator in the world? Originally, Wuji did not pay much attention to Lu Ye's claim that he was a rogue cultivator who did not belong to any sect or sect. Rogue cultivators generally did not have high talents because if they had good talent, they would have joined a large sect long ago. However, he now realized that he had misjudged Lu Yi. With a 64-leaf talent, he could join any of the top sects in the 9 states. How could such a person be a rogue cultivator? Wuji could not figure it out. Lu Yi had already retracted his spiritual power. When others retracted their spiritual power, the flower shadows would disappear. However, when he retracted his spiritual power, the flower shadows remained and shone brighter and brighter. This sudden change caused everyone to be on guard. They did not know what was going on. Just as everyone was feeling bewildered, the 64 flower shadows suddenly floated towards the center of the stone platform. Above the flower shadows, the petals fluttered and danced, quickly fusing together to form an even larger flower shadow. The surrounding flame energy was wildly devoured by the stone platform, and a wild gust of wind appeared. The originally scorching hot environment became slightly cooler. Under everyone's gaze, the flower shadow at the center of the stone platform seemed to have absorbed enough energy and slowly bloomed like a real flower bud. Cracking sounds could be heard. When the flower shadow had completely bloomed, a cratered entrance had appeared at the center of the stone platform. The entrance was at the center of the flower. At this moment, the changes on the stone platform finally stopped, and the massive flower shadow slowly disappeared. The entire place fell silent. Everyone stared at the entrance that had suddenly appeared. They had not expected such a change. Based on the current situation, this stone platform was not only used to test one's talent but also a hidden door that led underground. As for what was below, no one knew. If they wanted to open this door, they would have to find a way to activate the 64 flower shadows. Relying on one's talent alone should not be the only method. The ancient person who had created this stone platform must have other methods. This time, Lu Yi must have used this method to open the hidden door of the stone platform by chance. Now that the door had appeared, and the path ahead was unknown, everyone began to think. In the 9 states, fortuitous encounters were everywhere. Whether one could encounter it or not depended on one's luck. An ancient stone platform and a door that led to an unknown place. Was there danger or a fortuitous encounter ahead? However, cultivators had always been adventurous. In such a situation, anyone would want to go in and explore. Wuji turned to look at Lu Yi. Brother Nyo. Lu Yi nodded slightly. Wuji understood tacitly. Chapter 876. Wuji had an indescribable feeling towards this loose cultivator who called himself Nyo Meng. Disregarding everything else, he had a tacit understanding with this person at times. Take this moment as an example. Facing this unknown door, he and Nyo Meng had decided on a plan with just a simple sentence and a glance. There was no need for too much elaboration or anything else. The two of them already understood each other's thoughts. Wuji led the way in front while Nyo Meng monitored from behind. Working with such a person was undoubtedly very easy. If Nyo Meng was not here, he might not have the intention to explore further. His main mission was to protect the Cloud River tier cultivators under him as they collected earth fire. He had the responsibility to ensure their safety. The road ahead was unknown, and Ingwuji could not care less about it. The biggest problem was to immediately send a message to Lu Nai and ask him to send other true lake tier cultivators. They would come over to cooperate with him. But with Niu Meng beside him, there was no need to delay things. His gaze swept across the Cloud River tier cultivators under him, and Ingwuji pointed out half of them. You all follow me down. The rest stay outside to provide support. If there are any abnormalities, immediately send a message back. Yes. Everyone agreed. This time, even the flirtatious female cultivator's expression became extremely serious. Normally, Ingwuji was easy to approach, and they could talk and laugh with him. But now that he had given an order, they could only follow it. Senior Ing, I'll go in first. An 8th Order's Solid Cloud River Realm cultivator volunteered and walked into the dark hole. Move! Ingwuji pulled him to the side and jumped into the hole on the stone platform. The hole was like the mouth of a beast, swallowing him whole. Follow! A voice came from below. A few Cloud River tier cultivators who were pointed out hurriedly followed Ingwuji's footsteps and jumped in one by one. Li walked at the back. After he walked in, there were only a few cultivators left. They all spread out and were vigilant. Below the stone platform was a stone staircase that led downwards. No one knew where it led. The stone staircase was obviously man-made. It was flat and smooth. Even after the erosion of time, it was still as stable as before. There were 7 to 8 people in the group, with the 2 true lake tier cultivators in front and behind, and the Cloud River tier cultivators in the middle. They all tiptoed like cats, and there was no sound as they walked. The passage down wasn't crowded and could accommodate 7 or 8 people walking side by side. The further down they went, the darker it became. However, everyone was considered to have some success in their cultivation, so they channeled enough spirit force into their eyes to observe their surroundings. Ingwuji, who was leading the way, did not hide himself. He walked and stopped, as if he had discovered something. Lu Yi, who was at the back, soon knew what he had discovered. Passing by the place where he had stopped, Lu Yi could clearly see that there were some strange stone carvings on the stone walls on both sides of the passage. The patterns on the stone carvings were not uniform and appeared to be arbitrary. Some were flowers, some were sabers and spears, and some were human figures and ferocious beasts. From the looks of it, it was something left behind by the workers of ancient times and did not contain any special information. However, the pattern that appeared the most frequently was the sun in the sky. Within this pattern, there were many figures kneeling on the ground and kowtowing. Regardless of the origin of the owner of this place, just from the pattern alone, it seemed to be worshipping the sun in the sky. All the way down, it was unknown how far they had gone. Until a certain moment, there was a sudden cry from the front. Lu Yi, who was walking at the back, couldn't help but quicken his pace. The moment he stepped off the stone steps, Lu Yi couldn't help but fall into a daze. Su Chunran had a giant karst cave. This karst cave was so large that one couldn't see the end of it with a single glance. Deep within the cave, fiery red magma flowed like a river, shining with a brilliant light that clearly imprinted the scene inside the karst cave into everyone's field of vision. What caused everyone to exclaim in surprise was not the vastness of the karst cave, but rather the fact that there was a city-like existence in the cave. Rows upon rows of rough-looking houses of different heights were scattered all over the city. These houses were all carved out of hard stones, and many of them had collapsed due to years of disrepair. Only a few of them were still intact. In this underground karst cave, there was actually an ancient city. The city was crisscrossed with the magma flowing through the canals, like a moat. Just from the scene in front of them and their previous experience, this city had been uninhabited for many, many years. But what was hard to imagine was, what kind of people would live in such an environment? Even a true lake stage cultivator like Ingwuji couldn't stay here for long. He had to constantly circulate his spiritual energy to resist the scorching heat of the environment, which consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Suddenly seeing a dilapidated city in such a position was really hard to believe. What's up there? Suddenly, a cultivator looked up. Above everyone's heads was the underground rock wall, but because of the environment, it was scorched red. But on the rock wall, every set distance, there were specks of light constantly flickering. Yingwu Ji and Lu Yi flew up at the same time and soon returned, each holding a fist-sized irregular crystal in their hands. Fire Spirit Stone. Yingwu Ji was stunned. Most of the spirit stones didn't have an attribute, but there were many special environments that could produce spirit stones with special attributes. For example, here, the environment was scorching hot and the fire spiritual energy was dense and active. Over the years, fire spirit stones could be born. This kind of thing was useless to normal cultivators, but for cultivators like Lu Yi who cultivated fire attribute techniques and had fire attribute spiritual energy, using this spirit stone to cultivate would be much more efficient than using normal spirit stones. Not only that, attribute spirit stones had other uses that normal spirit stones couldn't replace. So in terms of value, attribute spirit stones were much more valuable than normal spirit stones. Under the premise of the same quality and size, one attribute spirit stone could be exchanged for 3 to 5 normal spirit stones. This kind of thing was usually kept as a strategic reserve by the two factions. Lu Yi once tried to find fire spirit stones in the Tianji treasure house, but didn't find a single one. It wasn't that the Tianji treasure house didn't sell it, but when there was stock, it was all snatched up by the cultivators of the two factions. It was the same treatment as the earth core fire. There were fire spirit stones in the rock wall above the city, which meant that there was a complete fire spiritual vein above, or else it wouldn't be able to nurture fire spirit stones. Looking up, there were as many fire spirit stones on the rock wall as there were stars in the sky. There were obviously a lot of them. No one had set foot in this place for thousands of years, so it wasn't strange that there were so many fire spirit stones here. Senior Ing, should we start mining? A cultivator asked, his face flushed with excitement. In the face of such an opportunity, everyone was naturally tempted. If they could mine all the fire spirit stones above, then even if they divided them evenly, everyone would benefit greatly. Yingwu Ji thought for a moment, then said, since we've encountered it, we naturally can't miss it. Then we'll start now? But be vigilant at all times. Yingwu Ji waved his hand. A few cultivators immediately soared into the sky and flew towards the cliff above. Brother Nyo, what do you plan to do? Yingwu Ji turned to look at Lu Yi. He couldn't help but feel a bit strange. In the face of such wealth, this brother Nyo didn't seem to be very tempted. I'll look around and see if there's any danger. Yingwu Ji finally understood Lu Ye's intentions and said gratefully, then I'll have to trouble brother Nyo. Sure enough, he could rely on his own people. It wasn't that brother Nyo wasn't tempted by the fire spirit stones, he was just a bit more cautious. Don't worry, brother Nyo will get his share, Yingwu Ji added. Since Lu Yi was willing to take the risk of exploring the area, he naturally wouldn't be stingy. Everyone was working together now, and although the division of labor was different, when the time came, he couldn't leave out a share of the benefits. Lu Yi nodded and walked towards the city. After walking a few steps, he suddenly seemed to think of something and said, it's best if they hand over all the fire spirit stones they've mined to you for safekeeping. This way, it'll be convenient for the final tally and avoid any suspicions. During the process of mining, if someone was secretly hiding something, they couldn't possibly check the storage bags of others. Rather than making a fuss and embarrassing everyone, it was better to let Yingwu Ji keep all the fire spirit stones and split the profits among everyone. Yingwu Ji immediately understood Lu Ye's intentions and nodded, saying, Brother Nyo's considerations are thorough. We'll do as Brother Nyo says. Only then did Lu Yi leave and enter the city. Yingwu Ji then flew into the air and met up with the Cloud River tier cultivators under his command. He passed down an order and had them hand over all the fire spirit stones they've mined. Regarding this, the Cloud River tier cultivators didn't have much objection. They also understood Yingwu Ji's intentions. The efficiency of the cultivators was very high. Piece after piece of fire spirit stone was mined, and every time a certain amount was accumulated, they would come to Wuxia's side to be counted. While this side was bustling with activity, Lu Yi also made a discovery. In a half-collapsed stone house, Lu Yi looked at a stool in front of him with a strange expression. There was no other reason. This stool was actually carved out of fire spirit stones. The workmanship wasn't exquisite, and it was actually very crude. However, it couldn't hide the special quality of its material. The reason why he had taken the initiative to invite Granny to explore this underground city was because this place was unknown. Although no one had visited it for many years, who knew if there really were some hidden dangers? It wouldn't be too late to think about the benefits after exploring it thoroughly. There were many thorns on the path of cultivation, so it was always right to be a little more careful. However, he hadn't thought that a casual stroll would result in such a harvest. Who exactly had lived in this city in the past? To actually use such a good thing as a stool, weren't they afraid of burning their butts? Or could it be that the people who had lived in this city all cultivated fire element cultivation techniques? This was a remnant of a long time ago. If there weren't any special clues now, there was no way to prove anything. Lu Yi stepped forward and put away the stool. He looked around again, and only left after confirming that there were no other good things. Chapter 877. Occasionally, he would find something when he searched the stone houses. He didn't know what kind of people used to live here, but they seemed to have a habit of using fire spirit stones to make furniture. Chairs, tables, and other things that Lu Yi didn't know the purpose of were all carved out of fire spirit stones. No one had cared about this place for thousands of years, and the fire spirit energy here was extremely rich and active, causing these things to be of high purity and quality. Wuxia and the others were mining the fire spirit stones on the walls above, but they didn't expect that the real treasure would be hidden in this shabby city. Rather than painstakingly mining, it was naturally better to pick up the ready-made stones. In such a large city, searching alone wasn't very efficient. Even if Lu Yi wasn't slow, it wouldn't be easy to search the entire city. After a moment of thought, Lu Yi took Hupa out of the spirit beast pouch and called out, "Lu Yi, where is this place?" Hupa had been kept in the spirit beast pouch all this time, so he naturally didn't see the light of day. Suddenly appearing in such a strange place, she couldn't help but be a little confused. A treasure ground. Lu Yi gave a simple explanation of the current situation. Yi instantly understood. "I understand." He wanted her to help find the fire spirit stones hidden in this city. "Be careful, there's a group of people from Myriad Devil Ridge here, led by Wuxia. Don't let them find you." Yi nodded and quickly disappeared, followed by Hupu. With Yi's help, the efficiency of the treasure hunt doubled, and the harvest this time wouldn't be bad. After that, Lu Yi also investigated the collapsed building, and from time to time, he would discover something. More than 2 hours later, Lu Yi held a round plate carved out of fire spirit stones in his hand and carefully examined it. This round plate was the size of a palm, and like the furniture he had collected before, it had very deep chiseling marks. This clearly wasn't a piece of furniture, but rather a plate. But the plate was too shallow, so it couldn't be used to hold anything. Because of the markings, he could distinguish the complete appearance of these spirit markings. After observing for a moment, Lu Yi poured his spirit energy into it, trying to repair the damaged areas along the original markings. This was not difficult for him. It was similar to the test of setting up arrays in the 100 Formation Pagoda. As for whether he could reproduce the full appearance of this unknown spiritual pattern, he could only rely on his luck. After all, too many lines were missing, and he had no idea what the original spiritual pattern looked like. A moment later, Lu Ye's expression became strange. As he repaired it, the damaged spirit inscriptions gradually revealed themselves. However, the more he looked at it, the more the spirit inscriptions on the fire spirit stone disc looked like explosive spirit inscriptions. It was roughly the same as the explosion spiritual tattoo he had mastered, but its internal structure was slightly different. The construction of a spiritual tattoo was not unchanging. For example, the spiritual tattoos that Lu Yi had obtained from the talent tree were different from the spiritual tattoos that he had seen in books. He had also compared the effects of these differences and finally came to a conclusion. If the same spiritual tattoo was constructed using the method on the talent tree, the power would be about 10% to 20% stronger than the method learned from books. This was already an extremely impressive improvement. Therefore, during the repair process, Lu Yi could basically conclude that the pattern carved on the fire spirit stone disc should be an explosion spiritual tattoo. It was just that the construction method was slightly different from the one he had mastered. The fire element was violent. The fire spirit stone itself contained pure fire spiritual energy. It was the most unstable of all the elemental spirit stones. Under normal circumstances, it had to be handled gently. If it was accidentally knocked, it was very likely to cause the internal spiritual energy to become chaotic and explode. What would happen if it was supplemented with an explosion spiritual tattoo? A thought flashed through his mind. The repair of the fire spirit stone disc in his hand had also reached the final juncture. When the last foundational element was completed and the explosion spiritual tattoo was formed, Lu Yi suddenly realized that what he was holding in his hand was not a fire spirit stone, but an extremely dangerous thing that could explode at any time. With the support of the explosive spiritual tattoos, the already violent fire spiritual energy showed signs of going out of control. Even Lu Yi, who had the cultivation of the true lake stage, could not help but feel a trace of fear. He had a feeling that if the Zhou GS item exploded in his hand, it would be a threat to the 1L version to a certain extent. This disc was a killing weapon. Lu Yi suddenly realized this problem. This thing was used by the residents of this city to kill enemies. No wonder there were many collapsed houses here and there were traces of destruction. He thought that it was because of years of disrepair and collapse, but now it seemed that this killing weapon should be one of the reasons. What kind of people used to live in this city? This environment of Surreo also produced killing weapons like Yujian City and Contestant Peak. They must be a group of people who were not to be trifled with. After dispersing his spiritual energy and solving the explosion spiritual tattoo, the heart-palpitating feeling also disappeared. Strike this fire spirit stone disc and pass it to Xiao Yi. If she found something similar, she must be careful. She must be careful not to bump into it. He continued to search. There were not many fire spirit stone discs like killing weapons, but they were not few either. It could be seen that the residents here had indeed mastered a method of refining killing weapons with the help of fire spirit stones a long time ago. Time passed. After entering this underground city for half a day, Lu Yi had already gained a lot. Fire spirit stones were very useful to him. Not only could it help him cultivate, but his talent tree could also devour the spiritual energy within and use it to ignite those leaves. In this way, he did not have to worry about the talent tree's resources for a short period of time. Although he spent half a day, Lu Yi had only searched less than 10% of this huge city. It could be seen how vast this city was. It was rare to come across such an opportunity, and this place contained such great benefits. Naturally, he could not miss it. Just as Lu Yi was about to continue searching, he suddenly felt a wave of spiritual energy coming from afar. Lu Yi looked up and saw that there were lights flashing continuously in that direction. Spiritual energy was surging endlessly. That direction was where Ying Wuji's team was. Were they attacked? Following Yi Ten's brows, he went north for half a day and did not even see a shadow. What did Ying Wuji's team encounter? It could not be the people of Grand Heaven Alliance. This was considered the two sides of Lonely Mountain City E of one Mo Ling. The closest side of Grand Heaven Alliance was Ashen Flame Mountain E. Other than himself, there was only Missing Moon Immortal in Ashen Flame Mountain E. Missing Moon Immortal was a divine ocean tier cultivator. Naturally, she could not have come here to kill a group of Cloud River tier cultivators. Lu Yi was puzzled. He did not know what had happened over there. He hurriedly sent a message to Yi and asked for her location. Then he immediately rushed toward her. In a short while, he found Yi and Hupo. Lu Yi hurriedly put Hupo into the spirit beast pouch. Just as he was about to rush over to meet up with Ying Wuji and the others, a loud buzzing sound suddenly rang out. Then the earth shook and the mountains shook. Above his head, gravel rustled and fell. Lu Yi stood in the air and looked down. He saw that in the ruined city below, the crisscrossing trenches that flowed with hot lava were completely boiling. A large number of bubbles burst, and lava splattered everywhere. Many stone houses collapsed one after another. It looked like heaven and earth were about to collapse. Looking at the crisscrossing trenches, Lu Yi suddenly realized that something was not quite right. He hurriedly leaped up and flew to a higher place. He looked around, and his eyes could not help but narrow. At this height, he finally sensed that something was wrong. The trenches that crisscrossed the entire underground city were connected by 2 points. The countless ditches that formed the heavenly array were connected to each other and formed 2 JR points. They were the countless ditches that formed the heavenly array. Based on this, the lava flowing in the trenches was the source of energy for the great array to operate. He had not noticed it before, mainly because the city was too big and it was difficult to see the whole picture. Furthermore, who would have thought that there was actually a grand formation hidden within such a city? What kind of array was this? Lu Yi stood still and observed, trying his best to imprint the information about the array Dao in his mind. Soon, the name of a great array appeared in his mind. Octopole Demon's Sealing Array. The great array hidden in the city below was 70% similar to the Octopole Demon's Sealing Array. However, considering the long passage of time and the many changes in the array Dao, the great array below should be the Octopole Demon's Sealing Array from a long time ago. This array was extremely complicated to set up, so even Lu Yi had not set it up before because he had no use for it. This array focused on the word seal, so it had the effect of sealing. What was this array sealing? And according to the current situation, even though many years had passed, this array was still operating because the lava flowing endlessly in it had been providing energy for the array to operate. No matter what this array was sealing, the situation was not good. Perhaps it was because it had not been repaired for a long time, or perhaps it was because of their various actions after arriving, causing this great array to show signs of collapse. No matter what this array was sealing, once it collapsed, it would inevitably see the light of day again. What had happened to Wuxia and the others? Without time to think too much, Lu Yi turned around and flew in that direction. It was not advisable to stay in this dangerous place for long. However, just as he moved, the lava in the trenches below suddenly exploded, and pillars of lava soared into the sky, reaching 1,000 feet high. In the direction of the entrance, it had been completely submerged by the rising lava and could no longer be seen. "Brother Nyo!" Wuxia's voice came from not far away, sounding a little panicked. Lu Yi turned his head to look and saw Wuxia leading a few people to flee in this direction. There was also a group of humanoid figures following behind them. These humanoid figures were all covered in flames, and their bodies were constantly twisting and turning. As they chased, they constantly shot out balls of flames from their side, causing Endless Shadow and the others to be battered and exhausted. It should be these things that had fought with Wuxia and the others just now. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.